Hi, Sean here, one half of Sean and Kiara. We are the co-creators of Lucy in the Sky, a graphic novel for middle grade readers published by First Second. Our second graphic novel, Rhiannon, will be out in October of 2025. If you like the things we do, please consider supporting us by becoming a paying member of our Patreon site for $4 a month. And if you enjoy videos like this, hit the like and subscribe buttons, as it'll help us build this channel. Thank you, and enjoy the video. Hello, and welcome to the second episode of my look at the original Star Wars comic book series that was published by Marvel Comics back in the late 70s, right around the time of the release of the first movie. It's been a while since I did the first episode, I know, back in February. I've finally gotten around to taking a look at the second issue. And again, I'm looking at the digital version, which has the original color. The color has been redone, make it look a little bit more up to date, but I kind of prefer the original flat coloring, and mostly because that's how I remember it when I read these. When I actually had physical copies of these as a kid, buying them as they came out from the newsstand where I used to get my comics. It was before we even had a local comic book shop that we went to. I would go to either a drugstore or a tobacco store which sold comics. So we have the second issue, which is dated August. This would have been 1977, the summer that the first movie was released, and the first issue of the comic, I believe, was released slightly before the release of the movie, oddly enough. And there's definitely a shift in the artwork, a shift in the look. For that first issue, Howard Chaykin, who was the primary artist, had access to a limited amount of photographic material that I suppose the studio provided for Marvel to look at when they made an agreement to release this comic in conjunction with the movie. And this was kind of a new thing. You know, up to this point, this really didn't happen for movies. And part of the genius of Star Wars and George Lucas was how he just merchandised the hell out of the movie. And it was really the beginning of, crossover tie-ins, merchandising tie-ins of pretty much everything imaginable. And this kind of over-the-top merchandising really started with Star Wars. So as I said, the comic book was planned to come out around the time the movie came out, and I remember buying it as soon as it came out. And there's some things in the first issue that didn't make it into the movie, some scenes that were cut. If you take a look at the script, you'll see those scenes in the script, but they were deleted from the film. And now for the second issue, it's obvious that the movie's been out now, people have seen the film, and a lot more stills from the film have been released, production photos and so forth, and it's really clear that Howard Chaykin had access to a lot more photographic reference to base his drawings on. Well, the covers to these are great. They're over the top, just like any other comic series from Marvel, with just the most minimal connection to the scene that it's referencing in the film. Of course, there is a barroom fight in the cantina in the movie. There's nothing like this. I like the dialogue, swing that lightsaber, Ben, or we're finished. Luke Skywalker strikes back. Okay. And the creatures in here, I don't think any of them really resemble anything that I remember seeing in the actual film. I like, in particular, this sort of bat-like creature down here with that bat wings, though. He looks kind of like Man-Bat without the wings. Right. Now we pick up where we left off in the first issue, where Luke has been attacked by the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders, and here we have them. Now they're startled. We have an embellisher / colorist who's helping Howard Chaykin with the art. So the art has a little bit of a different look from the first. The first one looked very... The art was good, but it had a rushed look to it. It seemed like maybe they were under the gun to get it out in time. The artwork looks like they were able to spend a bit more time on it, and the land speeder here. This looks like something that they would have used some photographic reference to. And of course, this is where Obi-Wan Kenobi appears, scaring the Sand People away. This first glimpse, or first close-up of Ben Kenobi, I'm sure that photographic reference to Sir Alec Guinness was very helpful for Howard Chaykin. Down here we have 3PO, of course, with his arm severed. And so we're back at Ben Kenobi's little hovel, and we have the complete hologram from Princess Leia. And we get a little bit of exposition about what's going on from Ben Kenobi. We learn about Luke's father, a little bit about his father. It's still, Ben is talking about his father as somebody distinct from Darth Vader. That our understanding of Darth Vader and Luke's father changes, of course, by the time the second movie comes out. But before that, it was still very vague. And I remember as a kid, I thought they were two different people. Anakin and Darth Vader, in my mind, were not the same person. This panel here of the lightsaber, I don't know if... I always thought this panel was kind of strange. I like this series of vertical panels here, but it almost looks like he's trying to draw the laser blade of the lightsaber as if it's foreshortened, and I'm not sure if that was the intention or if he's trying to show the laser blade tapering up like that. It's kind of a confusing look, a confusing drawing. It's an interesting position for the panel here, right in front of R2-D2 in the foreground of this panel behind. And here's another sequence here that deviates from the movie, and this must have been drawn before anybody had seen the movie, I'm thinking, because in the movie the interrogation droid that comes in is more of like a floating sphere with a hypodermic needle attached to it. And in this, it looks like some sort of insect-like anthropomorphic type of robot. We have the Jawa sandcrawlers having been attacked by the stormtroopers. Another panel here of there's a close-up of Grand Moff Tarkin, and it looks like Howard Chaykin used some photographic reference of Peter Cushing to get his face right. This is clearly taken from some photographic reference. I remember this was a popular still from the film. And a very popular sequence, too, the Jedi mind trick on the stormtroopers. And now we come to the cantina, which I think was one of the more popular sequences of the film. It was one of my favorites when I was a kid. And in the film, it's dark in there. It's pretty fast. You don't really get to see the creatures that clearly. Everybody's kind of in shadow. And so I was really eager to see this drawn out on the page. But it's funny because the creatures here, you don't really get a good look at them either. And Ben, of course, makes quick work of them. And now we have the appearance of Chewbacca and Han Solo. Chewie looks a lot stockier in this picture. Peter Mayhew was, although he was very tall, he was a pretty thin guy, or lean, I guess I should say. And so, Chewie had kind of a lean look to him, although it was, because of his height, he had a very big and imposing presence. But in here, the drawing makes him look a bit stockier. I like just like in the movie, the tabletop is lit up, and the light reflecting off their faces. And here is the infamous Greedo sequence, which George Lucas famously, and to much complaint from the fan base, changed when he went to revise the first movie, making it look like Greedo got off a shot first before Han shoots him. But here we can clearly see that Han just shoots him down. And now we come to probably the most interesting part of this issue. And we see Jabba the Hutt. And this is another sequence which was cut from the film. And I can understand why they would want to keep these extra scenes in the comic. It gives us a little bit more of the story, and that's nice. The danger, of course, is, if you have a situation like this where the sequence was filmed with a human actor as sort of a stand-in for Jabba the Hutt, and George Lucas didn't know exactly what Jabba was going to be like in the end. And of course, we know how he ends up. We finally see him in the third film, and he's a sort of a giant slug, and then Lucas then reinserts the scene back into the first film when he goes to revise it, putting Jabba in like he appears in Return of the Jedi. But now we have the scene as it was drawn in the comic. This was before we really knew what Jabba was going to be like in the films. And here they've drawn him as kind of almost like he's got kind of a walrusy kind of face without the tusks, with these whiskery kind of mutton chops on the sides. Absolutely nothing like he would appear ultimately. And I know that Jabba the Hutt in this form appears again later on in the comics. Marvel continued running these comics in between the movies to sort of keep the story going. And he comes back in one of the issues, or maybe several of the issues, I can't remember now, in the same form, this sort of yellowish walrusy kind of creature. And I'm not sure how they ended up reconciling that with the fact that he becomes something totally different when the third movie comes out. And here we have the escape from Mos Eisley, the Millennium Falcon being pursued by Star Destroyers. This panel here, the cockpit, I think this is based on some publicity stills from the film. But it's funny, take a look at Chewie in this, as he's drawn here, and as he is drawn in the same positioned panel, the previous page. Look how different they look. You compare them. The one here, he looks a bit more human too. In fact, they have the color. They didn't color in his nose. It looks more like he has a human nose than more of a doggy kind of nose. I always thought that was strange, the color on that. And the jump to hyperspace is how we end the second issue. I always like this panel here. So that's a hard thing to illustrate, the jump to hyperspace. In the film, of course, you see, if I remember it correctly, you see the starfield sort of shoot past you as lines of light, and so they had to figure out something that would be effective. And I think this is pretty nice way of doing it. It sort of shows the disorienting feeling that they must be getting as they jump into hyperspace. Okay. And that brings our look at Star Wars issue number 2 to a close. And hopefully it won't take me another half a year to get to the third issue. But who knows? Whenever that is, I'll see you then.